Good morning. Welcome to the real estate, some live question and answering. Any type of questions that you guys have about real estate or anything else kind of personal finance related, feel free to ask those questions here. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got myself all set up. Post your questions in the chat, any that you may have. They've got the disclaimer rolling, just a gentle reminder that I am not a professional. I'm not an expert. I'm really nothing that you should listen to. So before you take action on anything, go ahead and check with and get counsel from your professional service providers, the lawyers, the attorneys, the CPAs, your accountants, bookkeepers, whatever they might be. So today we have a decent amount of closing. We're closing on six or seven doors today. Let me pull that up. Six doors. Yep, closing on six, starting at 9 a.m. So this will be a short one. A little oversight on my part. Let's see here. Of these six, four of them are a package. This is a package of 4 homes. Buying them for right at about $40,000 each. They're all very small homes. 3 of them are occupied. One's in pretty rough shape, which is why it's a package, right? If that one weren't in rough shape, then he would do better off selling them on the MLS. But, he's going to sell them as a package because he doesn't want to be stuck with that one that is in horrible shape. It is right in an area where we have a decent number of other properties, so we're happy to take on that property that's in rough shape because it's one of the rougher properties on the street. We're already invested in that area, and now owning it and being able to improve it will have a positive impact on the rest of the street and subsequently the rest of our portfolio. So it's a win. And then the others, they've recently been renovated. So it's just that one stinker that weighs down the package. Those were an off-market deal. So generally, one of the questions that I get asked are, where do I find all of these deals? And for this one, it was an off-market, and it came through the insurance agency. So these are properties that a client of mine owned and is no longer interested in owning. He is an out-of-state investor, and he has had enough of the market and is looking to get out. So he is selling all of his properties in the area, which, is fine. Makes sense. One of them came right off the MLS, I believe. Actually, 2 of them, the other 2. So that was a package of 4. The other 2 came from the MLS. One of them is an estate sale. So it is a home that, walking into it, is very well maintained, pretty immaculate. Everything is very dated, but it is just like going into a grandmother's home. So it's kind of like a little time capsule. There is, in the kitchen, there's a corded telephone that has one of those very long cords attached to it. So it's probably like a 10 to 15 foot cord, which is pretty cool. Those are fun to see. And I try not to think about that too much because the number of times that we even have the ability to get a home that is such a time capsule is on the way out. So I consider myself to be pretty grateful each time we have the opportunity to buy a home that is clearly like a really awesome grandma's home. Good morning, WB Blue. Happy to see you back. Other than that, we still have 23 properties under contract. But, we're closing on 6 of those today. So we'll be under 20. I've been trying to keep us above 20 doors under contract pretty much all the time. Because if our goal is to purchase 200 homes this year, then that comes out to be about 17 per month. 17 per month puts us at 204 doors. But if we aim for that every month, we'll be in good shape. So this past month, June, we hit right at 17. The month before that, we were a little bit higher. We had a really big month of May. We bought 27 doors. In April, we bought 19. In March, we bought 13. In February, we bought 15. And in January, we bought 11. So seems like it took us a little bit to get up to this pace, but we've been able to keep it for the past couple of months, which is good. So far this year, we've purchased 103 doors. So after today, we'll be at 109. We've got one really bizarre thing that has happened. We were supposed to close on the property last week, and for some reason, the seller just never showed up. So we've been trying to get in touch with him, the title company, and we've been reaching out as well, trying to figure out why he's not showing up. It's pretty bizarre. This has never happened. So. Well, while we're waiting on some questions to roll in, it might not be too difficult to keep this pretty short today. Again, if you miss it, if you're just getting on, we've got closings today starting at 9 a.m. So I didn't quite get my schedule right then. I try to start them around 10, but today we're at 9. Propstream, if you want to do a lot of research real fast, then Propstream will help you out. This link will get you a 7-day free trial. The Ingram rental calculator app that's available in the App Store. And then the mastermind, if you want to be in a group of like-minded individuals all striving pretty hard to build a real estate portfolio, then seek-wisdom.com/join. There's a video on it that you should probably watch. Are those all cash deals or financed? Nope. We finance everything with cash, other people's cash. So what we do is we finance the purchase price plus the rehab costs. We use private lenders. So generally, our loans are 10 to 12% interest only. We get the properties, we acquire them, we rehab them, we rent them out. Once they've been rented out for 6 to 8 months, we do a refinance with a traditional bank. The formula that we use to buy these properties is we want the purchase price plus the rehab cost to be less than 75% of the after repair value. That way, whenever we go to refinance with a traditional lender, we package a group of these properties together and refinance at somewhere between 70 and 75% loan to value. And that allows us to not have any of our money into these properties. And then the private lenders that we have, generally, they are some friends, family members, people that we have a very good relationship with that want to get this 10 to 12% return. It's interest only, paid on a monthly basis. So it's a fantastic return for them. And it's assisting us in building our portfolio. So once we refinance, we pay off those initial private lenders, and then we check with them before each refinance to see if they want either their funds back to do something else with, or if they want to continue to invest with us. At that point, if they want to invest with us, we will allocate those funds to another property and keep it moving. What's the best way to finance a property from an auction? Carefully. So if it's an auction, It really depends on whether or not you have access to the interior of the house. If you have access to the interior, then you might be able to get a traditional bank to work with you or a hard money lender. If you do not have access to the interior, then it becomes a little bit too risky for most banks and most hard money lenders. And it's not necessarily something that they're interested in doing because the condition of the interior of the home is a big unknown. So it's really difficult to figure out how much equity you have, what the loan to value is going to be, how big of a risk is it, how long is that rehab going to take. A lot of things that banks need to know or lenders need to know can't be answered whenever it is kind of auction style property. So if you do not have access to the interior, then you are likely going to be unable to use a hard money lender or a traditional bank. So private money is an option. You can use them, or what a lot of people do is use either home equity lines of credit, general lines of credit. Some people use credit cards or other kind of short-term debt to acquire the property. And then once they get into it and have access to the interior, then they are able to kind of refinance their cash, their home equity line of credit, their line of credit with a hard money loan or one of these fix and flip loans by a bank. So that's what I would suggest. I mean, it really depends. We have done very few auctions, and for a while we had a good run where we were getting a decent amount of HUD homes, which is kind of like a pseudo auction style, but you have access to the interior, so we knew what we were getting into. We did a good run of those. As far as actual like sheriff sale auctions, we've done very few. And the ones that we did sheriff sale auctions on, we paid for in our cash at the time of the auction. And then once we were confident in the condition of the interior, that's when we borrowed money against that house to fix that house. So I would just proceed with caution, especially because private lending is, if you're going to use, private funds, friends, family members, it's going to be secured with the first position mortgage. You really want to have their best interest in mind, and it's really difficult to do that if the condition of the home is unknown. So even if you are able to peek in the windows or something, I mean, there's a lot that you aren't able to see from peeking in windows. And I would not suggest, if you don't have the right to be inside the property, I wouldn't suggest breaking into it to get the right to see it. Good question, though. Let's see. I had one comment on the YouTube channel this past week where it was a little bit of a snarky comment, but he was saying that because it was on a video where I explained our model on how we finance properties, and he came to the conclusion that we are banking on the appreciation of the property during the short-term part of the loan, like while it's on private money. And that is incorrect. We are not banking on appreciation. That is something that you should never do, right? So if our formula is purchase price plus rehab is 75% or less of the appraised value, then there's no need for us to rely on appreciation because the purchase price and renovation costs are staying below the loan that bank's going to make. So if we stay below 75% loan to value, 75% of the appraised value, whatever you want to call it, then 100% of the private money or short-term debt that we take on can be financed as soon as the property is stabilized with a renter in place. So The only thing that we're really banking on, there's two things. First, that our numbers are correct and that we are actually getting kind of a discounted asset and that we can fix it up for less than 75% of the after repair value once you subtract out that the purchase price. And then we are also banking on the market not tanking, right? So if the market decreases by 20 to 30% while we have that short term debt out, then you're right. We will need to come out of pocket when we refinance because the 25% equity we were planning on having would no longer be there. Good morning. I'm new to your channel. Do you do subject to deals? I do not. I do not. I find it very difficult for subject to deals to kind of be a win-win scenario. If you know of any where it would benefit the person that is selling the property to do a subject to, then I'd be interested to hear it. But if you have the means to finance that property in some other way, generally it is better for both parties to completely get out of that loan. So if you've got the cash to buy it outright from them, then that's generally better. The only time that I've heard of it being a real win to someone is if they are upside down in their house and they owe more on their home than what it's worth. But in that situation, I'm confused as to why you would purchase it, even on a subject to deal. Doesn't quite make sense to me. So I'm not a fan of subject to deals, mainly because I don't think everybody wins. And I'm not comfortable with the idea of the seller keeping all of the exposure, right? So if the mortgage stays in their name, then in the event that the buyer defaults, the buyer has minimal repercussions. The seller has all the repercussions of defaulting on the mortgage. So just doesn't seem like the best of all available options to me. I know there's a lot of people on the internet that say it's the world's best way of finding deals in real estate, and I've never done them, and I've found some pretty good deals. All right. Well, hey, I've got about 15 to 20 more minutes of answering some questions before I need to head off to the title company to start closing on some properties. But if you've got any questions, happy to answer those. Let's see if I can find some other things to talk about, some good topics. So, how to buy your first rental property? That's a question that I get a decent amount. And I would say if it's your first rental property, then getting something that needs very little work is probably going to be your best option. So, even if you have to pay closer to retail, obviously you always want to buy discounted whenever you have the ability to. Real estate, one of the unique components of it is that you are able to buy something that is worth more for a lesser amount of money just via negotiations. So I would highly recommend that you always have some sort of just immediate equity when you purchase a property. So even if you're buying something that needs very little work, do your best to not pay full retail value for it. However, when it comes to your first property, if you are completely new to investing in real estate, if you're completely new to real estate, if you're not very handy of a person, then I think it would be a safe bet and significantly easier for you to avoid a property that needs a decent amount of rehab work or any sort of cosmetic work. If you're not a handy person and it needs some type of cosmetic work or a little bit of renovations in order to make it rent ready, then you're likely, if you have a difficult time finding a contractor, if you don't have any strong relationships with contractors, then you might be kind of at risk of overpaying or maybe even having a difficult time like finding a reliable contractor. So it will always be easiest to start with a property that is relatively turnkey, one that may not need much work. Still bought at a discount, but otherwise ready to go. These deals are out there and you can find them. My brother and I, we did not take on our first rehab project until we had over 20 properties. So our 21st property was our first rehab project. And at that point, we had a decent amount of cash flow coming in from the rest of the portfolio that really took the edge off of this one sitting there while we worked through doing our first big renovation. Now, if you have a background in construction, if you are a handy individual, if you have the time to do a lot of this work yourself and to do it well, then there might not be much harm in buying a property that needs a little bit of work. However, I think it's important to be very clear of your goals and what you're attempting to accomplish by investing in real estate. If your goal is to scale a very large portfolio, then you are going to want to really focus on, the financing aspect, the management aspect of rental properties. I would not recommend using property management on your first couple of properties. We did, and that's one thing that I would change had we actually gone back. So having scale in mind is significantly going to be to your advantage if your goal is to scale a large rental portfolio. If you just want to have 5, maybe 10, then I think, being significantly more hands-on, more deliberate, doing things slower, doing some of the work yourself, that might not set you back at all. That's my thoughts. Nor, where would you suggest be the best starting place to learn about real estate, both countrywide and locally? I don't think you should attempt to learn about real estate as far as countrywide. In fact, I would say that learning nationwide real estate investing would be just probably pretty similar to learning about the different ways that you could invest in real estate. So between, senior assisted living, multifamily properties, commercial real estate investing, and just like the different ways that you can go about it. But learning about real estate on a nationwide basis is probably going to be like a lifelong endeavor where you're constantly going to be learning new things and messing up significantly. So all real estate investing is local. And if you talk to some of these people that have a couple properties in different places, then they have formed, unique businesses, unique relationships with contractors locally. And it's pretty much like they're running multiple different businesses inside of one. So I would actually deter anyone from attempting to tackle real estate from a nationwide perspective. It seems like a massive uphill battle that you will get wrong. So what I would recommend doing instead is figuring out which type of real estate investing appeals to you, and then selecting a couple different markets that you think you'd be interested in investing in. So I would pick, if you're just doing some trial and error, figuring out where to start, what piques your interest, I would pick a few big cities that you like. I would pick a few rural cities that you like. I would pick a few in the Midwest, figure out how the Midwest stacks up to the areas that you think you want to invest in. I would not make the mistake of saying, hey, this is the area that I live in, so this is the market that I have to invest in, right? Whenever I started learning about real estate investing, I lived in North Carolina and I moved to Ohio, and there's a massive difference. The opportunity available in Ohio is significantly greater than the opportunity available in North Carolina. And what I mainly mean when I say that is the price to enter. I'm sure there's just as much opportunity in North Carolina. However, the cost to take advantage of that opportunity is significantly higher, more so than I could afford when I was getting started. So the Midwest, I think, is probably one of the most undervalued areas currently in the nation, and I would highly recommend people look there when they're getting started. And Dayton, Ohio is where all of our rental properties are. And if you are interested in taking on very large rehab projects, taking older, wonderfully built homes and restoring them, then Dayton, Ohio might be the place for you because we have a surplus of older vacant homes. And then once you figure out what type of real estate investing piques your interest, whether it's multifamily, single family, or commercial, and then you decide on a local market, what I would suggest that you do then is go out and meet other investors that are in your type of real estate investing in the area that you want to invest in. Most people that are successful in real estate investing realize that there is far more opportunity out there than they could ever take advantage of. So, any type of competitive disdain, hatred, kind of what do you call it when you're not honest and you try to hide everything that you're doing, whatever that word is. I don't see too much of that in real estate investing. I think everybody is or most people are willing to share what they know and would love to have some help in uh, making sure that their area stays kind of tip top. So I think it's very good. And one of the best things that you can do is learn directly from local investors that are doing exactly what it is that you want to do in the same area that you want to do it. And then you're going to be very well on your way to being super successful at real estate investing. The only thing that I would add to that I would say is not healthy is looking at real estate investing as a means to retire early or somehow stop working for other people really quickly. You're going to have some income from somewhere while you're getting started in investing in real estate, unless you have a massive nest egg already. I'm starting from currently renting an apartment, just starting with 100K cash. When just starting with 100K cash, what's a solid strategy to get started? Whether you're starting with 100,000 or $0, the most important thing and the most solid strategy is educating yourself and pretty much just doing all the things that I outlined, getting plugged in with local investors that are actually and already executing on what you hope to. So real estate investing is not this thing that you have to go out and learn how to do all by yourself. The way that I like to think about real estate investing is like a franchise, right? So if you were to start a Popeyes, then you would get your hand would be held by Popeyes corporate, and you would, be taught how to, run a successful Popeyes. And then after you have all the fundamentals down, you would go out, you would start executing, you would open up your store. Any issues that you're having along the way, you're going to have resources available to you to help you kind of troubleshoot or fix any of the issues that you're having. It's in everyone's best interest at Popeyes that you run a successful Popeyes, right? So real estate investing is so similar in that so long as people have been around, real estate has been a thing, right? Shelter is something that is pretty high up there on everyone's priorities. So for as long as we've been around, we have had places to live and we have had things that needed to be fixed on these things. So you have entire industries that are built around serving real estate, all of your contractors, You have specialized contractors, right? You have HVAC people, electricians, plumbers. You don't need to reinvent any wheels at all. Everything is there for you. You just have to learn on how to kind of harmonize all of these things together in a way that is still profitable to you. And people have been doing this for a long time. There are real estate investors in your market that have been making money in real estate investing for a very long time. You need to find those people, become friends with those people, learn from those people. And then once you feel like you have a good grasp on how money's made, the resources that are utilized, the local specialized contractors, the local realtors that are good at working with real estate investors, then you can start dipping your toes in the water. Then you could start trying to execute this on yourself. Where I see people fail very quickly when they're getting started in real estate investing, regardless of how much money they have or don't have, is when they try to do this by themselves, reinvent all of the wheels, right? They're acting like this is a new venture for them and the rest of the world too, right? Any problem that you could ever experience in real estate investing, great news is the first thing, someone else has had it previously and someone else has fixed it previously. So there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to real estate investing. The second thing is every single issue you could possibly have in real estate has a corresponding price tag associated with it. That's good news and bad news, right? Because any problem that you ever face is going to cost money. Whether it's a lot of money or a little bit of money, doesn't really matter because you're going to be spending money. So I would say the only advantage that someone has in real estate investing that is starting out with capital over someone that is not starting with any capital is that they have the ability to burn through it faster. All right. So what you have to show for it really doesn't depend much on how much you're starting with. The other benefit that I would say that people that have money that are starting out in real estate investing is, for the most part, speaking very broadly, is there's a reason that you either have money or don't have money, right? If you don't have any money, then you're likely, as you're learning about real estate investing, you're also going to need to be learning about personal finances and how to retain more money and fix all the kind of leaky holes in your little financial bucket. Learn how to retain more money, make more money. And if you are starting in a position where you have capital, then the chances of you already knowing how to retain money once you start making it is a discipline that you already have. So from that perspective, as you get this business started, you're not going to, be faced with all of the temptations that someone that's getting money for the first time is, blowing it and things of the like. So that's about what I would say. Fundamentally, getting started with $100,000 or $0 is exactly the same. Educate yourself first. Surround yourself with a very solid peer group. Make friends inside of that peer group, ones that genuinely want to see you succeed and have your best interest. And then from there, once you have the knowledge and the network, then you should go out and get started. I think that is one of the few things that I did right when I just started out, is that I surrounded myself with people that already had portfolios of 30 plus doors. So for the first year and a half, 2 years of my real estate investing journey, before I made any decision at all, I consulted 3 to 4 people and got their insights on the things that I was thinking might be a good idea and got their feedback. And if they shot down an idea, I did not do that idea. So I was able to circumvent, a decade or more of trial and error just by surrounding myself with the right people that have intimate knowledge of the local real estate market, that are practitioners that have already built for themselves what I would have been absolutely delighted to have as far as 30 plus doors. So that's all I got to say. How do you know if your house has appraised so you can cash out refinance? So an appraisal is going to be something that you order from an appraiser. So the best thing that you can do to get ahead of this. So I'm going to take this kind of question behind the question and assume that what you're asking is how do you know if how do you know the after repair value of a home, and then make sure that you do not exceed 75% of that after repair value with your purchase price and your rehab cost? And I think this is a absolutely fantastic question, one that I haven't talked about on this channel in quite some time. And that's that you really need to be familiar with your local market. So if you want to invest in Dayton, Ohio, then you need to spend a uh, unreasonable amount of time on the World Wide Web looking at all of the comparable sales. So residential real estate, 1 to 4 units, those valuations are based off of comparable sales. So appraised values are always kind of a lagging indicator. And whenever you are investing in a really hot market, or you're trying to buy a house in a really hot market where things don't stay on the market for very long, then you're going to start seeing a lot of offers with like appraisal gap, which means if the appraisal comes in low, they're going to bring um, the remainder of that cash to closing, which means they're willing to pay more for that property than the appraised value, because appraisals are kind of lagging indicators of the market, because in residential, they can only go off of past sales. So I would say if you look on redfin.com, realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, any of these websites that have access to the MLS data, I would say spend a lot of time on there. Look for the actual neighborhoods that you are interested in investing, and then filter things out so you see all of the recently sold. And if you have a property in mind that you are interested in purchasing, then look at that property, look at the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, the square footage, and then the overall condition of that property. Then filter it out. So inside of like a mile radius of that location, you look at all the other 3-bed, 1-bath properties, and then you manually will look at all the photos of the recently sold ones and figure out what type of condition that property is in compared to the one that you're interested in purchasing. So if you are buying a property that clearly needs a lot of work, then don't look at the properties that need a lot of work as well that have recently sold. Look at the ones that are very comparable to the type of work that you plan on doing to your property. And through that, you're going to be able to make sure that you stay reasonably within the square footage. Square footage ultimately is really important when it comes to determining the after repair value. So then you're going to have a very good indication of what your property is going to be worth after you make all of the appropriate repairs to it. And from there, you're just going to want to make sure that your purchase price leaves room for you to spend, however much money you want or are planning on to bring it up to speed to compete with the other ones. You're going to want to make sure you stay below 75% of that number. So once you determine your after repair value, let's say it's $100,000 is what this property is going to be worth all fixed up, just immediately you're going to want to stay less at 75% or less. So you're not going to want to be in that property for more than 75,000. So from there, if you know that it needs $30,000 worth of work to bring it up to speed so that it is worth $70,000 or $100,000 after it's done, the most you can pay for that property is $75,000 minus $30,000. So the most you can pay is $45,000. That's a fair price for that property given its condition. And at that point, after you've done all of that, it becomes a numbers game. So in order to get a deal that good, you have to put out a significant number of offers on properties that meet that criteria. What motivated you to take your first steps into owning a rental portfolio? Good question, Mr. Mr. Chapstick 2010. Um, I'm gonna sum up my story because technically I should be leaving soon. Um, I was in law enforcement, making like 40,000 somewhere around there per year, and I got married. My wife was an assistant principal. She made more than I did. However, it was really important for us that she be a stay-at-home mom. So we needed to figure out how to make more money. And I essentially needed to kind of push myself to figure out how to replace her income. I had this grandiose plan of investing in dividend stocks and saving money very feverishly in order to amass enough dividend stocks to kind of passively replace her salary. But then I was really fortunate to meet a guy that was a real estate investor on one of the calls that I took. And he was nice enough. We became friends, and he was nice enough to take me around to all of the properties that he owned. He told me how much he paid for them, how much they make him per month. And it just absolutely blew my dividend stock strategy out of the water. And I didn't like that because I thought I had a perfect plan. I thought I was well ahead of the game. So I said, well, hey, if what you're telling me is true, then my plan is not good because real estate makes significantly more and yields a much higher return than what it is that I'm thinking. So that was when I lived in North Carolina, and in that area, you could even buy like a condemned home for less than like 100,000. So that was, kind of high from a entry point, a price to enter. It was a little bit too high for me and what I had. But then we moved to Dayton, Ohio, and we bought our first duplex for $35,000. It was already rented for like $1,000 per month total, and it needed no work. Um, so I stayed in touch with the individual that got me started in real estate investing, and we went over the prices together. We looked online at a bunch of stuff together, and he said, "Hey, I think it's a really good idea for you to buy as many of these as you can because the market will turn. It's just a matter of time. So buy them, put some roofs on them, and just let them sit if that's all you can do. But definitely get as many as you can." And I think that was some really solid advice because at this point the market has turned, and we were able to buy a number of properties that they're doing really well now. So it's kind of my summarized story. Thanks for asking though, Mr. Chapstick 2010. Thanks. That's solid. Be careful. Have your guard up. Those are all the right things, and keep pressing forward in those. But just be mindful that not everybody has your best interest. So be very careful. I would not recommend doing any joint ventures with people that you just meet. I would not recommend. I would just do your due diligence very thoroughly. And there's one fella. His name is Seth Bueckley. I look up to him a lot, and he is currently writing a book about mentorship, and he's got these different principles and marks of a mentor, as he likes to call them. So what you need to look for in someone that's mentoring you. And one of his is they have to love you. They have to love you and genuinely want you to succeed and have your best interest. And I think that's really applicable. So anybody that you meet either on Bigger Pockets or at your local real estate investor group, start relationships. Don't, if they're trying to sell you something, do your due diligence. Keep people at arm's length. Don't go into business with them immediately. Don't buy something from them immediately. Create the friendships, create the relationships, and then go from there. I have no idea. I've never done it. I would like to do it, but I have not done it yet. Yes, I use Propstream. I use Propstream a lot. I use Google Sheets. Pretty much our entire business is on Google Sheets. Appfolio is one that we use. That is our property management software. Appfolio has like a 50 property minimum before you have the ability to use them. So if you have 50 properties or fewer, then I think Buildium, apartments.com, Zillow, I think those are really good options. I know there's a couple others, but I'm kind of blanking on them at the moment. I would highly suggest that every new real estate investor, I think Propstream, you can get around using it if you want to save $100 per month, but Propstream is definitely worthwhile. So I'll put up that link again for mine. But I mean, I save a significant amount of time doing research just by using Propstream rather than kind of manually going to each of the sites necessary. So I'm very appreciative of it. And PropStream also has a tool inside of it that allows you to pull your own comps very quickly and get a really good idea of what the ARV for that property is going to be really fast. I find it to be more ergonomic than doing it manually on like Zillow, Trulia, or something else. So it also prints out like a really awesome comp report right after, which I think is helpful. So PropStream. And then I think that everybody should manage their own properties. I think technology has made it really easy if you fully utilize what these property management softwares have to offer, then it's going to be significantly easier to manage your properties than hire someone else to do it. If you're investing in out of state, you're going to have a little bit of an additional barrier to overcome. You're going to need to figure out and have somebody kind of local, boots on the ground, to do some little things here and there. But at this point, knowing everything that I know now, I would not recommend anyone use a property management company. So technology, property management software, really easy. And then from there, I would say one of the things that I do a lot is, consume information, books from all sorts of disciplines. They don't have to be real estate investing specific, but as soon as you become a real estate investor, you're essentially starting a new business. So it's going to be really important that you know how to kind of start a business. So always be looking for your bottlenecks, any sort of bandwidth issues you have. Address those quickly. Any sort of friction that you ever experience in your business, always be looking to make that a little bit easier, right? And one of the things that I think when anyone starting a business does, to a certain point, it's necessary, but do your very best not to run your business from your cell phone. As you grow, it's going to be more and more difficult to kind of bring other people in if you're running it solely from your cell phone alone. Thanks. Well, hey, this was a short one, but I really appreciate everyone. Thanks for being on here. Thanks for asking some of these questions. Next Friday, July 8th, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be right here prepared fully to answer any additional questions that you may have. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you.